tutorial, we're going to learn to make a felted Christmas stocking, and we can cut away to a photo here. You'll see there I've got a solid one and a striped one. And if you're not familiar with felting, it's a way of knitting something up big in wool and then deliberately shrinking it down so that it makes this really sturdy, thick fabric without stitch definition. If you'd like to get your copy of the pattern to follow along, just click the little eye in the upper right-hand corner. That'll take you to my website. And you saw the examples there of the solid one and the striped one. I've also got one here. I knit this one up in Gryffindor colors, thinking of sports teams, so I knit my favorite Quidditch team, but you can use, of course, any sports colors. The only requirement with this yarn is that it's 100% wool. Wool is what you need for the best felting. You can use a wool and another animal fiber blend, but you really need to stay away from any synthetics or any acrylics. It needs to be 100% animal fiber. I use bulky yarn, and of course all the details for everything is on my website. I use bulky yarn, but you can also use a worsted weight yarn held double-stranded to get the same gauge. Anyway, we're going to cover knitting the stripes and German short rows and correcting the color change jog and a few other things. I would put this pattern at an advanced beginner level if you're confident with both knitting and purling. I'm going to show you everything else. And I do have the stocking here before it's felted. It is absolutely huge. You can see it looks like a lot of knitting, but it's because it's bulky yarn and big needles, it ends up knitting up pretty quickly. I'd say it's a good weekend project. Anyway, we're going to get started with the cast on and working the stripes coming up next. If you have your pattern and your yarn and you're ready to get started, I have it all set up here. We're ready to get started with the cast on, so let's take a look. I am doing an abbreviated version here. This pattern calls for 16-inch circulars or 24-inch circulars, and I'm using 16-inch circulars. And I am just finishing up my cast on, just an ordinary cast on. I'm going to join this in the round, and I'll just run over this real quickly here in case you haven't knit in the round before. I have all of my stitches arranged so that the knots are on the inside of the cord, all on the same side, and nothing's twisted. And I have my working yarn over here on the right-hand needle. I'm going to pick that up and place a marker on the right needle and then just start knitting. And put the marker back on and start knitting. And that's how we're going to join in the round. And you'll knit the cuff. You can change color or not as many times as you want. In both the striped version and the solid, I have the cuff knit in a different color. I'll show you. Here's the felted fabric. You can see the stitch definition is gone, and this is really sturdy. And the reason I was excited to make a felted Christmas stocking is I have another Christmas stocking pattern that's just straight knit. And it looks great, but unless you line it with fabric, the knit fabric stretches out when it's full of stuff. This will actually hang rigid no matter how much weight you put in the stocking. So anyway, that's not why I pulled this into the frame. We have the cuff, and then if you're going to do stripes, you're going to change color after that with a couple of different colors, or you can do the cuff and then do the top of the cuff and then the rest of the cuff in one solid color. So we have I have the cuff finished here, and I'm ready to change color, and I want to show you how to correct the color change jog. When you're knitting in the round, you're essentially knitting a big spiral, and when you change color, you end up with a stair-steppy look to the color change. And the color changes in this stocking are all at the back of, well, let me pull this back in. All of the color changes are back here at the back of the leg, I guess you'd say. So it's in kind of an inconspicuous spot, but we do want to make sure that the stripes all end up clean without a color change jog. And that's what I'm going to cover right now. Enough talking, let's cover this. So I'm going to knit up to my marker. I'm ready to attach a new color. So I put my needle in that stitch, grab the new color. I'm going to fold it over, leaving about a 6-inch tail, wrap the back needle and pull that through, and the new yarn is attached. So I'm just going to knit with the new yarn, and this is what you're going to do every time you change color in this stocking. And it's something you can do when you change color, when you're knitting in the round, anytime you're working stripes or a color change. If you have to be patient with me for a minute while I get all the way around. And again, this is an abbreviated stocking. The real stocking is bigger than what I have cast on here, but the techniques are the same. Okay. I'm back up to the marker again, and this is where the real action happens. My stitch marker is caught up in that stitch. Okay. You change to the new color, you knit all the way around in the new color, and this is how you correct the stair-steppy jog. On the first stitch of the second round in the new color, you look down at the stitch below the stitch that's on the needle. The stitch below will be in the old color. You put your needle under the right leg of that stitch. If the stitch is a V, the right leg's over here. Put that up on the needle with the stitch on the needle, and then knit those two together. I'm going to show you that again. I'm on the first stitch of the second round. I grab the right leg of the stitch below the current stitch. It's in the old color. Put it up on the needle with the stitch that's on the needle, and then knit those two together. And that's it. The rest of the round is knit normally, and you'll do that on the second row of each color change. Okay. Now I'm going to cover a little bit of the German short row here. And even if you've worked my German short row socks before, or you're familiar with the German short row technique, there's something a little bit different here that I want to cover. And that's, obviously in this piece, I'm not ready to start the heel. We're going to pretend I've knit the whole cuff and I'm ready to start the heel here. I'm at the marker, and because the marker is at the very back of the stocking, we're going to knit half of the heel and then come back and knit the other half and then combine it all together, because we want all the color changes to happen right in the center. That's the only thing that's different, and it's all spelled out in the pattern. So I'm going to attach it and then follow the pattern to knit the number of stitches for this heel, and then doing the German short row, I knit up to where I need to be, I turn the work, and on the purl side, I slip the stitch from the left to the right needle, pull up on that stitch and yarn forward, and then purl. I'll show you this again, don't worry. And now this is an interesting thing here, because I'm essentially, I'm on the second round in this new color, and I need to do the color jog correction on this stitch, right? And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to slip that stitch from the left to the right needle, grab the right leg of the stitch below, just like I did on the knit side, but I'm on the purl side this time. I'm splitting the stitch, but I need to get that up on the needle, slip those two stitches back over, and now purl those two stitches together. It's not essential that you do this, but I just worked the color correction jog on the wrong side of the work, and that's it. And now I'm going to knit purl the other half of the heel to get these stitches incorporated. Turn the work. Okay, so now I have all of the heel stitches are in the gray color, in the other color, and I'm ready to go, and I'm just going to keep working German short rows. I'm going to pull the yarn forward. This is the knit side. Slip that stitch from the left needle to the right, pull up on the yarn, and it kind of creates this funny double stitch, and then knit across to the next stitch. And again, I'm doing a dinky little version here, but the techniques are what's important. So I knit up to the next one, turn the work. This is the purl side. I'll slip that stitch, pull up on it to create a double stitch, yarn forward, and then purl to the next stitch. Turn the work, yarn forward, slip that stitch, pull up on it, and then knit to the next stitch. So that's how you work the first half of the heel. And then the second half of the heel, it's really similar. The pattern will tell you to knit the first double stitch together, knit the second double stitch together. Well, actually, you'll have more wrap stitches than that. You'll knit the first one the pattern tells you and the second one, but you'll have more than two. And then you work a German short row on that first stitch. I'll show you on the other side. I'm afraid that what I just said was confusing. You'll have more wraps and turns or more German short rows worked than what I have here because I'm only doing 2 wraps on each side. I'm going to purl 2 together, purl the next 2 together, turn the work, and then work the German short row technique on that stitch. The German short row is it is a way of turning the work without leaving an enormous hole in the work. And it gives us shaping in the knitting. So you'll follow the pattern. That's the technique used, and you'll follow the pattern. You're going to work that over and over again until the entire heel is shaped. And then what's a little bit different from other short row sock patterns or other German short row sock patterns that I have is you're going to knit all the way across and then knit back to the marker before you change color. And just like we started here going this way, we're going to end going this way up to the marker. And I spell all that out in the pattern, row by row instructions. That is the whole technique. You're going to knit the cuff, which is very simple, the German short row heel, the foot of the stocking, and then the last part is the toe is just a simple decrease pattern. It's not German short rows. I actually tried German short rows when I was designing this, and I found that while a German short row heel is great in socks, it was kind of a boxy toe, and when the stocking was hanging, it wouldn't lie flat against the wall. It was kind of this boxy toe anyway, so I modified that and made it just a simple knit 2 together decrease pattern all the way around. And yes, that's it. Next up, we're going to make the I-cord strap and talk about felting. When you finish knitting the entire foot of the stocking, we're ready to work on the strap for it. And you're going to attach the strap before felting so everything felts all together. It's just a simple I-cord strap, and I'm going to show you how to work that. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here is the finished stocking, and here's the strap. And it's just I-cord that's attached down. And because it's felted, you don't have to be super perfect with your stitching, but you do want to make sure that it's secured pretty far into the stocking. I have designed these to basically hold lead. You could fill these with anything. These are the strongest stockings in the world, but that's what we're going to make right now. Excuse me. I'll get to that in a moment. So you want your yarn, and the yarn that I used, let me pull this back in. I matched the top of the cuff with the same color, but you don't have to. You can use a different color from the stocking if you like. Leaving yourself a decent tail, because we're going to use that tail for seaming. Cast on 4 stitches on a double pointed needle. And it has to be a double pointed needle because of the way this technique works. You cast on, and normally you'd turn the work now, but instead we're going to slide it to the other end of the double pointed needle so that the working yarn is actually coming from the wrong side of the work. And then knit across. Okay, again, normally you'd turn the work here, but we're going to slide it over to the other side so the working yarn is coming from the last stitch, and knit across. If you've never worked this before, it's pretty amazing how this ends up looking when it's finished. Okay, again, slide it. That is it. That is the technique for I-cord, and this is a 4-stitch I-cord. You'll see I-cord and other patterns written with more or fewer stitches. And after you've knit a little bit, you can go ahead and pull on the tail end, and you'll see the whole thing kind of closes up on itself, and it does make this cord that's knitted all the way around. So in this pattern, you're going to do that for 8 inches, I believe. And I have one here that's ready to go. I'm just ready to bind this one off, and it's just a normal bind off. I'm going to knit 2, pull 1 stitch over the other, and then break the yarn and pull the last end through. My yarn was already cut. Okay, so now I have this, and I'm ready to attach it. I'm going to get my tapestry needle. I'm ready to attach it to the inside of the stocking. This is my big unfelted stocking, and I'm going to attach it here. Whoops, I'm doing it in a different color. I just said that I'd do it in the same color, and I'm doing this one in a different color. So you'll be able to find the very back of your stocking because it's all of the places that you have changed yarn color. The first thing I'm going to do is to fold this over, thread one of the ends onto a tapestry needle, and stitch the 2 halves together. And because this is on the inside of the stocking and it's going to be felted, it isn't essential that it's perfect stitching. I mean, you want to keep it kind of tidy, but you don't have to get too wrapped up in spending a lot of time on this part. So I've stitched it together at the bottom. I think I'll do one more. And now I'm going to place it inside the stocking and thread the other end onto the tapestry needle, and then stitch it down here. And since I am using a different color, I'm going to be careful to just grab the back loop of the stitch and not go all the way through the fabric. If I was using the same color, I wouldn't have to be so careful about it. Okay, so you notice that I attached it all the way down the entire length of the top color, and I will attach it all the way down the other side, and then cut the threads short. And with felting, because this is all felted, you know, I have a knot here when I change color. I can just I can just cut those short. I don't really have to spend a lot of time weaving things in because they are not going to come unraveled when they're felted. Everything's going to be fine when once all of the stitches are felted together. I couldn't think of another word other than felted together. Anyway, a little bit about felting. You want to put the stocking or multiple stockings. If you're making a bunch of them, you probably want to wash them all at the same time or felt them all at the same time so that they end up being the same size when they're finished. Or you can just keep careful notes of exactly how long you felted it. When I'm doing this, I put the stocking into a lingerie bag or a zippered pillowcase because it is going to throw little bits of wool, and it's easier to clean out the inside of a lingerie bag instead of the entire washing machine. And I turn the water on to hot and let it run for a minute, making sure the water is really hot, and then spin that water out, and then fill it for a small hot wash using a little bit of wool soap. I also throw an old towel or an old pair of jeans in there with the stocking to help rough it up and help the felting process happen. And then you want to check it about every 5 minutes. Just off the top of my head, I can't exactly remember how long I felted mine. It's in the pattern though, for sure. And you want to be careful not to burn your hands when you're checking it. So my technique for that is barbecue tongs. I use barbecue tongs to pull out the lingerie bag and let it drip, and then take a peek inside, see just how much it's felted. And the main thing you're looking for is the stitch definition to go away. You don't want to be able to see the knit stitches anymore. And then beyond that, you want to see the exact size that you have. So I also keep a yardstick when I'm felting. I keep a yardstick next to the washer so I can measure and see exactly how big, how small the knitting's getting in the hot wash. Anyway, that is everything, I think, all the techniques used on this stocking. Again, just click the little eye in the upper right-hand corner to get your pattern and for links to everything that I've shown here in the video. Good luck.